We'll be looking at opposition parties in Nigeria, the challenges they are facing, and the future prospect of each of these parties. We've seen some kind of cross-carpeting that has been taking place, especially the recent defection from the People's Democratic Party to the SDP of the former governor of Kaduna State, talking about Nasir El-Rufai. Let's quickly get to Engineer Omofuma now. How will you assess the current state of opposition parties in the country, and are they effectively playing their role, as it were?
For democracy to succeed, there are basic elements that must be in place. Opposition is a basic element that brings about the success of any democracy. You cannot be right all the time. And so you will need dissenting voices, to help you shape policy. One man cannot sit down and just make policies. You need people to say, hey, what about, let's do it this way. We could have done it this way. We could have done it that way. So opposition is a basic tenet of democracy. But in Nigeria, we treat opposition as if you are being antagonistic or trying to fight the government. It's a funny situation we have in here. You do not treat the opposition as an enemy. And the opposition in the advanced democracies, are even imbibed, incorporated into the government. In UK, for example, they are part of the Privy. The Privy is the advisors to the government, just like we have the Federal Executive Council. The opposition leaders are supposed to be part of the government, part and parcel of the government. They run policy by the opposition leaders and say, hey, how is this best for the people? Should we go this way? What do you think? So opposition should be a part of the government. But we treat it with disdain here. We treat the country like a conquered territory. And it won't lead us anywhere. It won't lead us anywhere. Now, talking about why people are defecting, people are realigning. People are saying the only way to move forward is to provide an alternative, a better government for Nigeria. You can't keep trying the same thing and doing the same thing over again and expect a different result. And so that's why you see a lot of realignment happening in the recent past. Like you just said, El-Rufai moving from APC into the SDP. A lot of people are moving, and it's a basic realignment that is going on so that people can restructure better, and fight for political power to move this country in what they tend to be the right direction. If you look at this country critically right now, we know we are not going in the right direction. I'm not talking about political parties right now. We all know it. All you need to do is to go on the streets, ask the common man, go to any market in Nigeria, go to any street in Nigeria today and ask the common man, whether in the southwest, in the northwest, in the northeast, in the north central, in the south, in the southeast, south, go anywhere in Nigeria and ask the man on the streets. Is his life better today than it was 6 years ago, 5 years ago, 4 years ago, 8 years ago? They will tell you no, an emphatic no. And that is how I would judge if we are moving the country in the right direction. As long as the answer on the street is still no, then we are not heading in the right direction, and we need an alternative to the current government. That is how it works everywhere, and that is how it should be here. Psychophancy has no play here. We are talking about human lives. We are talking about human tragedy. We are talking about people's security, people's welfare, people's future. So opposition has a major role to play, and if we need to realign, we really need to strategize, to be able to move, to wrestle political power, to move this country forward, then so be it. Yes, there's some element of psychophancy in what's happening in maybe the states or people cross-carpeting from PDP to APC. That is a different situation entirely, where people want to be a part of the government. People want a situation where they can get their hands in, to protect their positions. That is a different thing entirely. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about moving this country in the right direction, as it should be. Everybody on this call right now, both Dr. Edosa, Yunusa, you Praise, and your co-host, we all see what is going on in Nigeria. And so we need to restructure so that this country can be moved in the right direction. Thank you.
Let me quickly move over to Mr. Alfred, as we tend to pick out some of those challenges opposition parties in Nigeria currently are facing. Mr. Alfred, if you can hear me.
Yeah, I do. As of today, the voice of the opposition is being silenced because of the power. And nobody wants to hear the truth anymore. So a lot of things actually going on in Nigeria today. Nobody's speaking out. Even those that try to speak out, there are voices who try to suppress them. And it's a big challenge. It's a big challenge, and it's another area we really need to look into. It's a big challenge. So each time I look at this country, Nigeria, I shake my head and I cry to say, no, this is not what we prayed for. This is not what we yearn for. This is not what we actually deserve. So when there's an issue, there are some voices that are supposed to shout to say, no, this is wrong, this is wrong. But today, once you try, by the time you want to say this is wrong, you hear the people who shut you down, and it's a big problem. It's a big problem. And if we want to check the past administration, the opposition were given a free hand to do what they want to do. The opposition, you always see them on the street demanding for justice, demanding for fairness, demanding for equity, demanding for a better Nigeria. But this current administration, you can't even do that. So when you come out to demonstrate, the next thing, they'll begin to tear gas you, they'll begin to see, do one or two things to bring you down. Look at what is going on in the Senate. In the Senate today, there is no opposition. So everybody just aligned, which does not really make sense. So the opposition need to wake up to begin to speak for the people. But sadly enough, there is no opposition in Nigeria today. As of today, there is no opposition. So people moving from one party to the other is just to safeguard their own political interest, not for the betterment of Nigeria. And it's really, really sad. So these are the areas we need to look into so that Nigeria can actually move forward.
Okay, Dr. Mendoza, quickly help us now. Talking about challenges in political parties, especially opposition party, you are in the ruling All Progressive Congress. Some persons are saying, like Apostle Alfred has actually said, he said the ruling party is caging everyone and forcing them to align with what it wants. Could that be true, or do you have a different opinion?
See, it's not in any way caging or coercing or forcing anyone. What I would say is today we have opposition in Nigeria that has these displaced priorities. I would say they have displaced priorities because first you see opposition parties having so much internal crisis. Which of the opposition party today are they not having internal crisis in their party? The Labour Party, the PDP, and even the upcoming, I will call them upcoming because El-Rufai just went there now to give the party at least a little name. SDP. We've seen crisis even in the SDP that is just upcoming. So they have misplaced priorities. Instead of the opposition to put up a very viable opposition, you see them fighting for their own internal crisis. And even when they now even try to raise points and to criticize rather, you see them not even thinking about providing alternative solutions. For me, it's not enough to say this is wrong, the government is doing this, the government is bad. You should be able to come up and say, this is the better way to do it. Provide solutions to the government. But you rarely see that in Nigeria. What you see in Nigeria is a opposition that always wants to castigate, condemn, and demean the government. You hardly see them bringing alternative solutions. So for me, opposition should majorly be about alternative solutions, not just coming on air or going to social media or holding press briefings to castigate or condemn the actions of the government. That's not enough. You should be able to bring up very viable solutions. And for me, the opposition, they're having misplaced priorities by, first of all, putting so much attention on their own internal crises that have been lingering for so long. And secondly, also not doing what proper opposition is about. Proper opposition is about bringing alternative solutions and supporting the government, helping the government. But no, they want to disgrace the government, condemn the government. So nobody is coercing or forcing anybody. to go to support the government. Rather, the opposition has refused to take up a true position of being a proper opposition or supporting. The opposition has to support, not just condemning. So thank you so much.
Okay.
Now, apart from Labour Party, former presidential candidate Peter Obi, who is vocal to an extent, and sometimes we also get to see Atiku Abubakar of the PDP, the others are pretty much silent, and the big question is why? And there are those who actually would believe that political parties or opposition parties are only active during electionary period. Now, how can we begin to change their narrative so we get to see them involved during the time of governance?
Engineer Mofuma, can you respond to this, please?
Listen, the leader of my party, Excellency, Mr. Peter Obi, has been very vocal. He has constructively criticized the policies of the government of the day. So I don't understand what those here say that we don't provide solutions to the policies being made. He's always on air, challenging and providing solutions, to every single issue, every single policy this administration has been put in place. Opposition is supposed to take the powers of the government in place to make sure there is no abuse of power and to make sure there's no abuse of privileges. He was just on the air 2 nights ago talking about policies and this democracy we have. This semblance of democracy we have, I won't call it democracy, because all the tenets that make democracy what it is, 90% of it is virtually missing in what we have today. And so we are playing the role we can. He is talking, he's everywhere. Some of us are also talking, and that's the best we can do. For a situation where one of the tenets again of democracy is freedom of association. The rights of people to their basic rights guaranteed, like freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, freedom of religion. A situation where people come out and peacefully protest, and they're either maimed or killed. How do you want people to air their voices, or when they go on social media and say something and they just dismiss it off as social media rants? You go on air and say something, and the next thing the government is releasing an official statement criticizing you. So making it a personal issue. When they are supposed to look at constructively what you are talking about. Mr. Alfred here just said there's a big difference of what we have now and what we had in the past, and it's the truth. During the era of the PDP in this country, you could protest freely. In fact, those in government today, they all were protesting constantly. They did a minimum march here in Abuja. The president of Nigeria, he led several protests in this country. We've all seen the videos are there. The internet does not forget. You have the clips here on ITV. But today, when you protest, they come out and start shooting you. I participated in the end government protest last year. I was in Nigeria then still, and I participated. And they were shooting at us. They started shooting tear gases, and later they started shooting. So it's completely wrong what is going on now. This is not democracy. You don't kill protesters. You don't arrest protesters and try them for treason. You don't try protesters for treason. That is part of democracy. If that's not happening, then something is wrong. People should be able to speak and criticize the government constructively. That is what it entails.
Okay. To an extent, let me pause you. I want to interject a little. You just talked about people are supposed to speak, but to an extent, those who were elected on your platform, the Labour Party, they are actually, in a way, doing the bidding of the presidency. We've seen some who actually got to the Senate and the House of Assembly, the Federal House of Assembly, Federal House of Representatives. Most of them, they are cross-carpeting into the APC. From their body language, it seems they are in Labour Party, and they are doing the bidding of APC. How are we going to justify this? Because a good number of those who actually got on board on the Labour Party, they've actually entered the APC. How are we going to strike a balance, and how will their voice be heard if they are acting like they are in the APC while wearing the garments of the Labour Party?
I have an opportunity to the several proceedings at the Senate during the course of this last 1 year, and I have seen that you for you to even speak in the Senate as a senator, you need to be. You can be raising up your hand. You can be trying to speak for 2, 3, 4, 5 sections in the chambers, and nobody will acknowledge you. If the Senate president doesn't allow you to speak, you cannot speak. And if you start speaking, they can suspend you. They can, they can deny you some of your privileges. So I have seen how it works, and like I said, what we have is a semblance of democracy. A lot of things need to change. We need to fine tune what we are doing, and make it better. Yes, some of our people are cross carpeting into the APC for the simple reason that we've had leadership tussle within the party, and most of it, as we have come to know, has been sponsored. I'm not saying the party government is sponsoring it, but it's sponsored from outside, to create turmoil and to destabilize the party. And I would say to a large extent, is working. They've destabilized most of the opposition parties in Nigeria. I don't know what strategy that is, to destabilize and make sure there's no opposition. Why would there not be opposition? Like I keep saying, that is a major part of democracy. The opposition must be there. The opposition must have a sound voice, whether in the legislature, that's why even in the judiciary, you have dissenting judges, dissenting opinion. So you can have 3 judges on a case, you still have a dissenting opinion. It's allowed to be read out. So in a situation where our judiciary and our legislature has capitulated, their powers to the executive, it brings cause of concern. There's a lot of things going on right now. People should be alarmed. People should be concerned at where we are going to, what is going on now. Yes, some people are talking because they are benefiting from the system, but it's not just enough to benefit from a system and keep quiet. Whether you are benefiting from you're an APC member or not, you can see what is going on. When we have bad roads, bad hospitals, it affects you. It affects your relatives. It affects your children. It affects your children unborn.
Right.
My experienced Peter Abi was just talking last time how 21 billion was used to renovate a VP's lodge, VP's house. 21 billion will build you at least 2021 standard primary health care center, equip it and staff it for at least 1 year in this country. Go and look at the state of our primary health care centers. You go and look at the state of our roads.
Okay, so yes, indeed, it's a lot, and there are so many things to talk about regarding the state of the nation currently as we speak. But I'd love to move over to Mr. Alfred, because the last speaker just revealed something really striking when he said that there are some sponsors who deliberately sponsor, fights and ugly situations we get to see in some opposition parties. Now the question is it that these opposition parties are not coordinated enough to be able to handle some of these things? And what are some of the strategies that opposition parties in Nigeria can begin to utilize to remain competitive, in the country? Mr. Alfred.
Yeah, number one, the opposition leaders need to come together to agree, have a focus. What do we actually want? How do we want Nigeria to progress? That should be the first thing. By the time they come together, then align, bring their idea, their knowledge. How do we improve on what is on ground? Then they move forward. But basically, there are persons that are being sponsored outside the party to destabilize the system. So it's not making it difficult for some leaders to take some certain decisions. We're in this country, we know what's going on. Let me talk about Wike, for example. Wike is in PDP and is also in APC. Then using him to destabilize the PDP. So something is wrong somewhere. Something is wrong somewhere. Now, even the PDP leadership, they also find it difficult to put their house in order, because there are still greedy personality within their midst. So the same is also happening to Labour Party. The same is going to happen in SDC. whatever party that comes on board, there are some persons that have been planted inside the system to destabilize the system. In a nutshell, all opposition leaders now need to come together to say, we want a better Nigeria, putting aside their own personal greed and work for the betterment and the progress of this country. That's the only way forward. But what we have currently will not allow that to happen. They will continue to cripple them. They will continue to raise some persons within their midst to scatter all their plans. So we still have a long way to go. We still have a long way to go.
Okay, we are going to manage our time now. Dr. Edosa, quickly, we've seen some kind of movement from the body language of the former vice president of the country, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar. There seems to be a kind of call for a merger. What is the fate of APC and President Bola Ahmed Tinubu? What is his fate comes 2027? Will this force or these forces that are trying to put their heads together to unseat him in 2027 succeed?
Okay, thank you very much. Quickly, before I address what you have said about the realignment and the fate of our president, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, into several elections, I want to quickly correct something.
No, let's manage our time now. We don't have time again, Dr. Edosa. Let's just go straight and answer the question.
Okay, for me, this realignment will sincerely have no effect on the fate of the APC in the 2027 elections. The election is still going to go smoothly and still be decided by the voters. Why did I say so? For me, because if you look, speaking about the current happenings, I don't know what will happen in the future. If you look at the three major political parties that are in talking terms for this merger, being it the SDP, the Labour Party, and the PDP, they all have their own internal crisis. For me, which is as a result of lack of internal democracy, lack of transparency in their own internal process. Okay, see the SDP, for example. El-Rufai just moved to the SDP. There's already crisis there. I watched a press conference where the immediately past presidential candidate of the party, Adewale Adebayo, was granting a press conference talking about the fact that, yes, they welcome new members, but they're not going to allow new members hijack the party. It's because of what they are seeing, the signs they are seeing. Also on another news, the National Secretary of the party, Olu Akundoye, wrote a petition to the IGP, Kayode Egbetukun, alleging that he's being forced to resign. So a party that is just starting with those kind of crises, or is it the Labour Party today that you have so many of the very few legislators they have, both at the national and even the state level? Today in Edo, they have just one lawmaker who are defected to the APC, all moving with their supporters to the APC. Or is it the PDP that we all know they have their own crisis, like someone said about Wike? For me, the PDP crisis is as a result of lack of internal democracy and sticking to their own internal policies. That is what has caused their crisis, and nobody is calling any crisis for anybody. So these things, if you look at their own internal problems, they are not ready. They are not ready. For me, they are not ready. It's not about coming out to say you want to realign. They are not ready at all. Because first of all, they have to check their house, in-house, correct those errors before they start talking of realignment for the 2027 election. And today, the APC enjoy a very, very robust and united leadership, both at the state and the national level. And for me, that is what it takes. First of all, when you are going into a general election, you have to go in a united front. So for me, I don't think their realignment will make any effect or make any meaning to the 2027 general elections.
Okay, so as we tend to leave the conversation here, because it's an unending one in Nigeria always, what role do you think the media can play, especially in strengthening opposition parties in the country and trying to balance the situation? Let me move over to Mr. Alfred.
Media have a great role to play, but sadly enough, 80% of our media has been hijacked. We're supposed to be having investigative journalism. We do not have them anymore. It's a big problem. It's a big problem. So the media now need to come on board to say it the way it is, facts and figure. But basically, like, let me talk about the ITV, for example. The ITV is doing a great job, fantastic job. So what they do, they come up with the right information, sensitize the people. Now, all other stations need to come aboard, do the right thing. But on a lighter mood, I can tell you for free, we do not have independent investigative journalism anymore in Nigeria. Because there are some journalists who actually want to do the right thing. One or two things will happen to them. They will try to silence their voice. So truth have left our media houses. Truth have left our media houses. Not all, but this is just a fact. So let us come together. Let the media begin to do the right thing. Set the record straight. Say it the way it is. Then build confidence in the life of our people. Then people begin to trust the media more. Thank you.
Okay, Engineer Mofoma, quickly, how can opposition parties build a stronger coalitions and avoid internal crisis, like some of the analysts have actually said?
We are working on that right now to take people to be courageous enough to let their ego bring down their self-ambition, and let the growth and the betterment of the country be first of their agenda and not personal ambitions. You know, the APC, the PDP, LP, Labour Party, my party, and SDP and other smaller parties that want to be part of a coalition. Everybody needs to come to a round table and look at it critically. What do we want to achieve? It will not just be enough to say, okay, we want to snatch power, we want to take power in Nigeria. That's not enough. You know, we need to say, what do we need to achieve? You know, why do we want this power? You know, is it for ourselves or for the people? You know, so as long as we are centered on how to move the country forward, as long as the primary reason why we want this power is to better Nigeria so we can achieve our true potential and become the giant of Africa, we are the one the black race is waiting for. You know, all over the world, everybody is waiting for us to wake up from our slumber. You know, so for me, there's no time for half measures anymore. We need to take the bulls by the horns and do the right thing for our children and our children's children, so they can benefit from the vast resources, both natural resources, human resources of this country. You know, so that is it for me. That is what I want. You know, talking about the role of the media again cannot play a good role unless the executive allow it. We are aware today so many journalists are languishing in various prisons all over Nigeria. Some there for 10 years, 5 years, untried. Many of them are waiting trial. We are aware. You know, so it's the same when you do investigative journalism and you come up with something that the government does not like, the next thing you are being arrested. You know, so the media houses are basically gagged. Yes, some are trying to do something, ITV, channels, Rise, you know, but the media houses are majorly gagged. You know, they cannot really speak the truth to power as it should be. And so I want a better and a more egalitarian society for our people. I want a better Nigeria for our people. You know, and for me, there is nothing I would accept that is less than this. Thank you.
All right. Well, for us in ITV, we are known for speaking truth to power, and for 28 years, we have been giving unbiased reportage on all political issues in the country. Let's quickly give Dr. Alari a fair share of the conversation. You wanted to respond to Apostle Alfred. Please make it brief as we begin to wind up.
I just wanted to, although I've already highlighted some things I wanted to say when I was
you're okay now.
About I spoke last, but already, like, for me, it's not enough to always want to accuse the government at the center. Now you have accused the government of hijacking the legislative arm, hijacking judiciary, and even now it's also hijacking the media. For me, that is not fair enough, because for me, I think this government is more involved or responsible with the so many challenges facing Nigerians, and not necessarily trying to do all these allegations that have been laid on the government today by influencing legislative arm and all, and up to even the media. For me, I disagree with that. The government is seriously involved in checking the challenges that are involved, that's been engulfed in Nigeria. Because we all agree that there are challenges, and then I must also say the government is doing her best to check these challenges. Like we'll see, the government is trying to also check in the infrastructure, in the area of infrastructure, and doing their best. We all know some decisions of government like fuel subsidy and unification of the exchange rate has led to some issues or some challenges being faced by Nigerians.
Okay.
But then those are actions that will bring about so much long-term benefits. And I also appreciate the government too for also engaging in trying to help some relief to alleviate.
Okay. All right, thank you very much, Dr. Alari. We appreciate it. We've been talking with Dr. Alari. He's a medical doctor, a politician, and a philanthropist, and of course, engineer Christian Omofoma. We appreciate you so much. He was the senatorial candidate for the Eastern Central Senatorial District. We appreciate you for being on the program all the way from Abuja, while Dr. Alari joined us from Benin. And all the way from Bayelsa, we have joining us Apostle Alfred. We appreciate you so much, Apostle Alfred, for being on the program this morning.